Alright, video clip number 3. We're starting off at problem number 16. I want to get the variable by itself. I can't do anything with the 3 because it's being held captive by the 2. I'm going to multiply the numerator by 2, and on the other side I'll multiply the negative 4 by 2. Those 2's cancel, and I'm left with m plus 3 is greater than negative 8. One more step, we're going to subtract 3 on both sides, and I'll have m is greater than negative 11. For a number line, I want my negative 11 in the middle. Maybe negative 20 off to the left, to the right, 0. And I want to shade everything greater than negative 11. For interval notation, we're going to read the number line from left to right, and my solutions are going to start at negative 11, and they're going to go on forever. Since we're not including negative 11, the circle is not closed. It's a parentheses, and the same goes for the infinity symbol. All right, number 17, we can subtract. The pen lag is getting worse. Subtract 6 from all 3 sides. So I'll have negative 10 is less than t, which is less than 10 minus 6, 4. So all my solutions, all the t values that are in my solution set, are between negative 10 and positive 4. So those are the numbers I need on my number line. In the correct order, lower numbers or more negative numbers go on the left, positive or greater numbers go on the right. And I'm going to simply shade between those 2 circles. For interval notation, our solutions go from negative 10 to positive 4. Parentheses on both because the circles are open. We're not including those values, we're just approaching them. Number 18, I want to get the p-value by itself. I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And we'll get 5 is greater than or equal to p. 7's are canceled, which is greater than negative 7, negative 2 rather, 5 minus 7. Now our statement here, our inequality is kind of backwards, but that's okay. We don't have to fix that for our answer. We just have to make sure on the number line that we do go in order. So the -2 goes on the left, +5 goes on the right, and we'll shade greater than -2, and we're going to actually close the circle on +5 because it has the equal bar underneath the inequality. For interval notation, we do need to go in order, so -2 to +5, parentheses on the -2 because it doesn't include it, and then a bracket on 5 to include 5. Number 19, the text here got a little out of order. So let's take a look at it over here. We'll do 3 less than s plus 9, or 1 is greater than s minus 4. In this case, we're going to look at these two inequalities independently. So on the left, if I subtract 9 from both sides, I'm going to get -6 is less than s. For me, it's easier to interpret if I flip that around and say s is greater than -6. Not required, but it sometimes makes more sense. Then I'm going to jump over to the other inequality. We're going to get s by itself over here by adding 4 to both sides. And I get 5 is greater than s. Or we're going to flip it around and say s is less than 5. And when you flip these around, just keep the inequality symbol pointed at the same thing it was pointed at before. All right, this is an OR statement, so it is a union. We're going to bring together all answers greater than -6 and all answers less than 5, which happens to be the entire number line. All right, there's no number that doesn't meet one or the other of these criteria. So our solutions are all real numbers. For interval notation, we're going from -infinity to +infinity, and that covers everything. All right, for absolute value inequalities, this first step is the same as with equations. You have to get the absolute value by itself. So I'm going to add 7 on both sides. And I'll have the absolute value of x is less than or equal to 22. Once the absolute value is by itself, we can set up case 1 and case 2. This would be a lot easier if the pen wasn't so laggy. Case 1. Is just to drop the absolute value symbol. Don't change anything else. We've got x is less than or equal to 22. Case 2. For this one, you're going to replace the absolute value with negative parentheses. Everything else the same. Case 1 is already solved for us. X is less than or equal to 22. Case 2, if we just divide both sides by this -1, that cancels the negative on the left, and I'm left with x, flip our inequality, is greater than or equal to -22. So the two numbers I need to put on my number line are -22 and +22. And before I go to shade, I'm going to look at the absolute value inequality when we got the absolute value by itself. Because absolute value is a distance, and if distance is less than a number, that means our number is going to be confined. It's going to be between these two values. And we'll actually close those circles because of the equals bar underneath. Number 21. Let me try closing something to fix this lag. Alright, number 21. I've got to get the x, or the absolute value by itself. Oh, that may have helped. So I'm going to subtract the 11 from both sides. Spoke too soon. Alright, so I get the absolute value of x plus 9 is less than 9. We can set up case 1 and case 2. For case 1, we just want to drop the absolute value. You're not changing anything else. So we get x plus 9 is less than 9. Case 2, we're going to replace the absolute value with a negative in front of some parentheses. And if you do it this way, you don't have to remember what you have to flip and where the negative goes. Alright, so I'm going to subtract 9 on case 1. and we'll get x is less than 0. For case 2, I have a choice. I can distribute the negative or divide it on both sides. I'm going to divide it. So negative divided by negative is a positive. That gets rid of the parentheses. When you divide by a negative, you're going to flip your inequality symbol. I've got negative 9. And now when I subtract 9 on both sides, I'll have x is greater than negative 18. So I'm going to a number line. I know I need two numbers on there. I need negative 18 and I need 0. And before I shade my solutions, I'm looking back at this inequality where I have the absolute value by itself. And this says my distance, my absolute value, is less than a number. All right, we're going to be confining our distance again. So it's going to be in between these two. All right, number 22, I've got 3 times the absolute value of x is greater than or equal to 9. If I divide both sides by 3, we'll get the absolute value by itself. So absolute value of x is greater than or equal to 3. Case 1, just drop the absolute value symbol. X is greater than or equal to 3. Case 2, replace the absolute value with negative parentheses. And we can divide by negative 1 on both sides. When we do that, flip the inequality symbol because we're dividing by a negative. And now I've got my two numbers, negative 3 and positive 3. Make sure we put them in the right order on our number line. And again, before I start shading, I'm looking at the absolute value inequality when I have the absolute value by itself. And this is saying my distance is greater than or equal to 3. So distances greater than 3 are going to go on forever. So that means I'm going to shade towards the end of my number line. The little equals bar underneath the inequality means I need to close these two circles. So we're going to include negative 3 and positive 3 in the solution set. All right, number 23. What is the interest on a loan for $5,000 at 4.75% for 6 years? Well, we're going to need our calculator for this. It's just going to make life a little bit easier. And we'll also need a formula. There are two formulas we went over for interest. We have this formula, I equals P times R times T, where P stands for principal, R stands for rate, as in interest rate, and T stands for time, specifically time in years. I is going to stand for interest. So from our question, I've got $5,000. That's going to be our principal. 6 years, That's going to be our time. And 4.75 is our rate. But I can't use a percentage in my calculations. I have to change this to a decimal. And we're going to do that by moving the decimal place 2 points to the left. So the number I'm going to use in my formula is 0.0475. So I have interest equals $5,000 times our rate and we're going to multiply that by the number of years, so 6. Now, since multiplication is commutative, I can switch around the order here and it doesn't matter. In my calculator, I typed in 5,000 times 6 times 0.0475 and arrived at interest equals $1,425. So after 6 years, the $5,000 grew an extra $1,425. All right, last question. What is the interest on a loan for $25,000 at 5% for 16 months? All right, so some work that we've got to do before I can just plug it into my formula. 5%, we've got to change that to a decimal. 16 months. I don't want to use the number 16 in my formula because my formula will assume that that's 16 years. So to convert to years, I'm just going to take the 16 and divide it by 12. 12 months in a year. So that is the number I will use for my years. So interest is going to equal 25,000 times our rate, 0.05, times our year, which is 16 divided by 12. All right, now what I would do in my calculator is multiply the 25,000 times the 0.05 and take that number and multiply it by 16 and divide that answer by 12. And what I end up with is going to be $1,666, and we'll round it up to 67 cents.